The Emperor of San Francisco. In 1859, a man named Joshua Norton lived in San Francisco, California. He had lost all his money after a bad business deal. One day, he read a news article about problems in the government. The country felt divided, and many people were unhappy. Joshua had an unusual idea. He wrote a letter to the newspapers and said, "I, Joshua Norton, am now the Emperor of the United States." He signed it, "Norton I, by the grace of God." People read the letter and laughed at first. But in San Francisco, many liked his strange charm. Instead of arresting him, the city accepted him as a kind of joke and a hero. He began wearing a blue uniform with gold buttons and a plumed hat. He walked through the streets like a royal guard was protecting him. Newspapers printed his official proclamations. He ordered the end of corruption and the building of a bridge across San Francisco Bay long before it was built. He even dissolved the U.S. Congress many times, though nothing changed. Local shops and restaurants respected him. They let him eat for free and called him Your Majesty. Some places even accepted his own handmade money. He printed paper notes worth 50 cents or $1 with his picture and seal. No bank honored them, but in San Francisco, they worked like real cash. Children waved and shouted, "Here comes the Emperor!" He loved the theater and was given the best seat at every show. Police officers saluted him on the street. Once, when he was arrested by a new officer who didn't know him, the public complained. The police chief apologized and released him at once. For 21 years, Emperor Norton walked the streets of San Francisco. He brought joy, humor, and kindness wherever he went. On January 8, 1880, he collapsed on a street corner and died. The whole city went into mourning. Newspapers wrote, "The king is dead." On the day of his funeral, over 30,000 people came to say goodbye. Flags flew at half-mast. Schools closed for the day. He was buried in a fine coffin, paid for by public donations. Years later, a plaque was placed in his honor. It reads, "Joshua A. Norton, Emperor of these United States and Protector of Mexico." Though he was never a real emperor, San Francisco made him one in spirit. His story shows that sometimes a title doesn't come from power, but from love.
The gum that changed my day. It was 8:15 a.m. on a busy Tuesday in London. David Miller was rushing to work. He wore his new black shoes, a gift from his wife for his birthday. The sky was gray, and people walked fast with coffee in their hands. David checked his watch. He was already 5 minutes late. As he crossed the street near the subway station, he felt a sudden squelch under his foot. He stopped and looked down. A bright green piece of chewing gum was stuck to the sole of his shoe. "Not today," he muttered, trying to scrape it off on the pavement. But the gum only stretched and stuck to his heel. A passerby laughed quietly and walked away. David felt annoyed and embarrassed. He took out a tissue and tried to pull the gum off. It broke into pieces. Now there were 3 sticky spots on the sidewalk. He gave up and walked on, limping slightly to avoid touching the gum. At the office, his boss saw him and frowned. He said, "The client meeting starts in 10 minutes. And you're wearing that?" David looked down. His shoe was dirty, and a small string of gum still dangled from the side. He said, "I stepped on gum. I'll clean it later." His boss shook his head. "You look unprofessional." The meeting was with a big company from Germany. David sat at the table, trying to hide his feet under the chair. When he stood up to present, one shoe made a soft stick sound on the floor. The German client looked confused. David's face turned red. After the meeting, he went to the bathroom and tried again to remove the gum. He used soap, water, and even hand sanitizer. Nothing worked. He called his wife, Anna. "I stepped on gum this morning, and now my new shoes are ruined." Anna laughed at first, then said, "Come home at lunch. I'll help." David took a break and went back to their flat. Anna had a trick. She put the shoe in the freezer for 20 minutes. When the gum froze, it became hard and brittle. She tapped it gently with a spoon. Crack! It fell off in one piece. She cleaned the rest with the cloth and lemon juice. The shoe looked almost new. David smiled for the first time that day. "Thank you," he said. "You saved my shoes and my week." Back at work, he felt more confident. Later, he saw a teenager step on the same spot on the sidewalk. The boy looked down and groaned. David walked over and said, "Here, use this." He handed him a small bag with a tissue and a wipe. The boy looked surprised, but grateful. "Thanks, sir," he said. David nodded. It happens to everyone. That evening, he told Anna what he had done. She smiled. "The gum gave you a bad start, but it taught you to help someone else." From then on, David kept a small cleaning kit in his work bag. And every time he saw gum on the street, he picked it up and threw it in the bin. One small sticky moment had changed the way he saw the world and his place in it. My first day at work. I woke up at 6 a.m., even though my alarm was set for 6:30. My heart was beating fast. Today was my first day at the new job. I had applied for this position for months and finally got the offer last week. I ironed my shirt the night before and laid out my clothes on the chair. After a quick shower, I ate toast with jam, but I wasn't hungry. I checked my bag 3 times. Phone, wallet, notebook, pen, and ID card. I left home early to avoid being late. The bus was crowded and I had to stand all the way. When I arrived at the office building, I looked up at the tall glass windows. I took a deep breath and walked through the front door. A security guard smiled and said, "Good morning. Can I see your ID?" I handed it to him with a slightly shaking hand. He gave me a visitor badge and told me to go to the 12th floor. The elevator ride felt very long. When the door opened, a woman in a blue dress was waiting. "Are you the new assistant?" she asked. I nodded. "Yes, I'm here to start today." "I'm Sarah, your team leader," she said. "Welcome." She showed me to my desk. It was small but clean, with a computer and a notebook. She gave me a folder with rules, passwords, and a map of the office. Then she introduced me to the team. Tom, Lisa, Mr. Patel, and young Emma. Everyone said hello, but I forgot their names right away. My first task was to answer phone calls and take messages. The phone rang after only 5 minutes. I picked it up and said, "Good morning, this is, I forgot my full work name. Was it Assistant Lee or just Lee?" I said, "This is Lee. How can I help you?" The caller asked for Mr. Patel. I didn't know where his office was. I asked Sarah quietly, and she pointed to the 3rd door on the left. I wrote the message, but I spelled the client's name wrong. Sarah corrected it gently and said, "Don't worry, it gets easier." At lunchtime, I sat alone in the break room and ate my sandwich. Lisa came in and asked, "Do you want to eat with us?" I said yes and followed her to a cafe nearby. We talked about the weather, the city, and our favorite coffee. It made me feel less nervous. In the afternoon, Sarah asked me to type a report. I typed carefully, but I accidentally deleted a whole paragraph. My stomach dropped. I didn't know how to fix it. Tom saw my worried face and helped me recover the text. "You'll learn fast," he said with a kind smile. At 5:30 p.m., Sarah called me to her office. I thought, "Oh no, did I do something wrong?" But she said, "Well done today. You stayed calm and asked for help when needed." That made me feel proud. On the bus home, I replayed the day in my mind. I made small mistakes, but I also learned a lot. I even remembered everyone's name by the end of the day. That night, I wrote in my journal, "First day, not perfect, but real. I belong here." I fell asleep with a quiet smile. The next morning, I woke up, still nervous, but ready to go again.